Thanks for taking part in the Wrexham.com General Election 2019 Q&A video. To dive straight in, firstly, another candidate was selected for Clwyd South, but that information appears to have been wiped, apart from an entertaining 404 page on welsh.dems.wales. You're obviously in the chair. Are you able to just explain quickly how that's happened and what happened there?
Yeah, basically the person that was meant to stand just had other responsibilities throughout the party. He's very much, I think he's a campaign coordinator for all of Wales, and I think what it was simply that he had so much going on, and he was supporting other locations like Mont and down in Cardiff. It felt that his time would be split, and it would be better that somebody like myself, who could commit quite a large amount of time, go and represent Clwyd South, really.
Thanks. Bringing it back to you, are you able to tell us a bit about yourself, any political history, and why you have the political leanings that you do?
Yeah. So I'm Lib Dem through and through. I think I align with Lib Dem thinking. I started enjoying politics, I think, when I was, maybe 19. Before then, I had no interest in it at all. It was just, people in suits going to a big building. It still kind of is, isn't it? But no, I thought I got into it in my local area because my grandfather and grandma, nine and tied as I call them, but I'll do it for non-Welsh speakings. They always taught me that it was better to try to change things if you saw something going wrong. And at the time, that our high street in the city that's nearest to me was just dying. It still is, and I wanted to help that. And I thought politics was the best avenue because I've got a retail background. I felt that it was the best way to support it because of my knowledge in retail. I thought I could engage with people better, but I think that's the main reason why I got into politics, was because I wanted to save my community, really. And yeah.
Locality of candidates is one debate we've spotted. Do you think it's important that people are represented by those who live and work in their communities?
I think what's important is that the people of a constituency are represented by people that understand the culture and the area. For myself, I come from a small village called Bethesda, which is in Gwynedd, which is very rich in history, very Welsh speaking, and it's surrounded by farmland and a lot of farming industry. And I think I was best suited for Clwyd South because I can understand the area, because it's Wales at the end of the day. And I'm a massive Welshie, but I'm proud of being Welsh, but I'm proud of being European. And I think my feelings towards Wales and wanting to protect our culture put me best suited to support Clwyd South, especially with the reasons I gave earlier about the previous candidate.
If you're representing Clwyd South at Prime Minister's Questions today, what question would you ask the Prime Minister, and what do you hope to uncover by asking it?
I think I would ask the first question. I was thinking about this a couple of days ago. Was the first question? It would be about devolution of power to Cardiff, but not only just power to Cardiff, but power to North Wales. What I found throughout my trips across North Wales and speaking to lots of little villages is we feel very disconnected. I feel it sometimes. The North, we feel disconnected from South Wales, where Cardiff and Swansea keep getting everything, and we sort of get abandoned out in the sticks. And I think my first question would be, what are you doing about devolution, and what are you doing to help the north of Wales have that balance? Because I think, it's a 3-4 hour drive down to Cardiff. You couldn't be further apart, but a train it's quicker to get to London, and that's further away. Why do we have this? And I think that would be my first go at him or her.
This is the third election in 4 years. People say they're obviously fed up with politics, party politics, politicians, etc. You're all the same, never listen anyway. What's different about you?
What's different about me is that I will listen. I'm from retail background. I spend every day of the week listening to people, and my way of thinking about people, it's not about just selling things in work. It's about speaking to them and getting to know them. I'll stand and talk with somebody for half an hour. I know my boss won't like it, but I enjoy it. And I think one of the reasons I got into politics previously was because I noticed that politicians will come over. I had it in my home village. A politician came over, sat and had a cup of tea with my 9, and he went, yeah, we'll sort this out, and didn't do anything. And I think that was one of the key bits that I said, no, people need to be represented by somebody that will listen, and I want to listen to people because I just want to help, and that's the only reason I've gotten into politics. I don't care about fame, I don't really want to be on the TV, but I want to help Wales grow, really.
Now, not talking about party manifesto items, as hopefully parties can take care of those themselves, but as an MP you might get the chance to bring in a new law via a private member's bill. If you did get the opportunity, what law would you seek to bring in?
Law? I think not really a lot. I would love to be able to expand the way we think about technology. There was one when I was running the local election. I didn't get many votes, but I wanted to rethink about how we think about roads. At the moment, we use a lot of carbon dioxide just to fill potholes, and that's the main burden that road users have. Even cyclists now, you see them falling in and flipping over. And what I wanted was to change it to plastic roads, because that technology is being developed across Europe, across the world, where they condense all recyclable plastics into little pellets and then create road surfaces that don't get potholes. And I'd love to be able to invest in something like that and get us to think about technology in a different way. I think we're getting to the mundane of, a pothole, let's get the council, they'll just fill it and then that's it. But we should be thinking of that solution, and I think that's one thing that I'd love to throw money at, is technology. And
what relevant experience do you think you've got for the actual job as MP?
I think a lot of MPs are not too educated, but they're a bit disconnected. They've all gone to uni and they're, from Eton and all sorts, and they're very disconnected from day-to-day people. And I like the fact that I am just a day-to-day person. I went to college, I did sport outdoor. I haven't done anything with that qualification, but it taught me a lot of key skills that I needed. And I think that's why I think I'm suited for it, because I can give that view to people that I am just an ordinary Joe Bloggs walking around.
Putting Brexit aside, what would you say is the top issue for Clwyd South in the forthcoming parliamentary term? And can you briefly explain how you'd like to see your desired outcome achieved?
I think one of the other big issues is that it doesn't get raised is farming and the farming community. I spoke recently to a gentleman that was very, very close for the farming community, and he was explaining where the Clwyd community of farmers feel that they're on a knife edge in terms of finances. And I think the perception of everyone else is farmers, they're loaded because they've got so much land and so much feed and all sorts. They think, they're millionaires. But I think the reality is that they are on that knife edge, and I think their mental health is suffering with that. From what I heard, there's a very high percentage of farmers that are suffering with mental health, and then eventually, getting worse and worse without treatment because they're constantly having to work. And I'd like to be able to tackle that, the fact that farmers aren't getting the support. I said years ago, and it was part of the Lib Dem manifesto quite a number of years ago, where farming and agriculture is one minister, and I've loved to separate them, to actually have a minister for farming, to be able to actually support farmers, not just from an office, but to actually go around. And I know there's a lot of farmers because it makes up a massive bulk of Welsh industry, but to get to some of them, just to speak to them and find out how they can help. I'd love that, to be able to do that. And, I'd volunteer if we got a majority.
You've touched on historic manifesto there. When in a coalition government with the Conservatives, the Lib Dems went back on the election pledge to oppose increasing student tuition fees. How sceptical should people be of your promises? And as MP, would you back your election pledges, or would you do what the party told you to do? I would back everything that the manifesto, we'd want to. The reason we've published the manifesto is because that's what we intend to do. I think what we don't highlight enough as Lib Dems is that in 2010 we stopped the Conservatives getting a lot of
bills through, and I think that backfired on us, and it forced us to have to back that bill. And I think that's where it's bitten us, where the Conservatives have been very good at marketing the fact that that's the bill that we failed on. But when you look back at what they tried to get through, they did fail because we didn't back them. But they've done a very, very good job at just saying, oh, no, that's the one thing that the Lib Dems failed to do. And yeah, that coalition cost us. But I think we're trying to get people to trust us again, you know, that we are here to do the good thing. I think back in 2010, the way I wasn't massively into politics, but way that I've read and understood, if we hadn't have entered the coalition with the Conservatives, there would have only been another general election, and then it would have just been a stalemate. The situation of the economy at the time needed a government to come in and just try to sort it, and I don't think we could have afforded another general election. You know, we can't afford this general election, to be fair. Just had a referendum. But yeah, I think that's really what it was. It was a tactical coalition to benefit the country, but it backfired on the party. But it did benefit the country for those 4 years, but then the Conservatives only went and got everything that they wanted afterwards. Yeah.
Speaking of trust, your manifesto states that you expect the BBC to provide impartial news and information, and also educate all generations in tackling the impact of fake news. I've seen a few things pop up across the UK where the Lib Dems appear to have been taking YouGov national polling, applying modelling on that data, and then applying that to a constituency. And several voting intention graphs have been created as a result, with many questioning their legitimacy. Do you think that as a party you need to sort that kind of thing first before telling the BBC what to do?
I think every party within has issues where individual local execs will take it upon themselves to broadcast different news. I think it's an issue that every party has to tackle. We want to stop the BBC from, you know, not tackling fake news now, rather than it spiral out of control, because, you know, people are influential. Facebook, everything is so connected, you can manipulate anyone, and people don't like to admit that they can be manipulated, but, you know, we all do in our own little way. And I think it's one of those issues that everyone has to deal with and has to tackle in their own way. It's not just the Lib Dems, I think it's everyone. That was from a few years ago. I think it was a university, Cambridge maybe, that spread that you eat 6 spiders in your sleep every year, and they came out and said that that was completely false. It was a study to see how many people eventually believed it after 5 years, and I think that's the danger. But I think graphs just to show, you know, as long as they've got facts behind it, I think, you know, that's okay. But I think we do need to tackle it. But like everyone, we have to tackle the fake news and show people what is real and what isn't. And it's quite difficult to do that anyway. But yeah, I think that.
This has been filmed a couple of days after ITV did their leaders Q&A interviews. Jo Swinson was asked, would you be prepared to use a nuclear weapon? And without hesitation, she said yes. What do you think of your leader, and is that strong leadership, or did the answer concern you?
Well, funnily enough, I had this discussion yesterday with a friend of mine, and it went on for quite a while. I think she was good at honestly answering the question. I think the fact that we have nuclear weapons is a deterrent. I disagree a bit with with using them. You know, I don't think we should ever use them, full stop. But if we had to, then okay. But the point of them is a deterrent. But I do want nuclear disarmament, and I think the sooner we get to that, the better, because nobody wants to go down in flames. You know, I play a lot of video games, and, you know, a lot of them it's very good fiction, especially in video games, where they can show possible futures, and you've seen them several times, and I don't think any of them are very good. So I think if the entire United Kingdom was up in flames and Jo Swinson was sitting in the chair, last survivor, and she had the button, I think that's where that answer came from. She would press it, you know, but I think in normal circumstances, I can't imagine she'd walk into Downing Street and press the button. I think she would hopefully try to disarm everyone, but yeah.
Legalising the recreational use of cannabis in adults in a controlled and regulated manner is in the manifesto as well. Why do you think that's a good thing?
I think the way we look at it at the moment is that it's because we can't, the reason everyone, as general public, think it's so bad is because we can't control it at the moment. And I think the reason when we can't control something, we're scared of it, or we don't like it, we don't trust it. But if you look from other countries, you know, the Netherlands, where they have put that control in and they tax it, it hasn't caused any negative effects. It's controlled when it's only in cafes. You have a special stamp that you have to carry it from said cafe to your home. I think if we had control measures like that and we managed to tax it, it would bring billions into the UK economy, tripping over my words, into the UK economy. And I think that's what we need to focus on, is that the amount that we would gain from just decriminalising something and taxing it, that, you know, it is only recreation. It hasn't shown to do any damage compared to alcohol and tobacco, which we have shown does incredible damage, but they're legal and taxed. So why is it being separated? And it's because we're just scared of it. I think a lot of people go, oh no, it's been illegal and it classed as a drug for so long, we've just gone, oh no, scared, better not. And I think the benefits outweigh any negatives. You know, a lot of people just don't like the smell. But as long as it's in a controlled environment, such as the cafe or at home, you know, as long as people aren't walking around doing it or driving, you know, I think it is a good thing, and I think it would benefit us.
Wales gets its own subsection in the manifesto, a single page, listing various pledges. What's your favourite Welsh specific policy listed and why?
We will be releasing a Welsh devolved plan as well to devolve further powers into Wales, and I think that's one of my favourite things, is that we have to make sure that Wales, I think the biggest issue in North Wales is an increase in nationalism, but I think that stems from something I mentioned earlier, which is where we feel abandoned from the south, abandoned from England. And I think devolution is one of the main points that I want to see, because I'm hoping that it will pull the independent people that want independence back to us, that, and to show that we are better together and working to grow. Because, you know, the good thing about England is that they've been around for so long and they've done a lot of mistakes, yes, because that's what we learned about in school, is we learned about everything bad that the English did. But I think what they've done is that they've done a lot of good and bad things that we as Wales can learn as we're developing our government. And I think the Senedd can learn a lot from England's past, not just the bad things, but the good things, and help build on that. And I think devolution is one of my favourite things. But we will release a further Welsh manifesto soon, and in English and Welsh.
A coalition is a possible outcome from this election, and obviously all candidates say they're focusing on the outright win. But putting that aside to force a direct answer, what would be your most comfortable coalition?
I think my most comfortable coalition would probably be between, you know, it would be within the Remain Alliance, which would be Plaid Cymru and the Greens. Failing that, it would have to be Labour. I think as a party we should be saying a no Conservative coalition, just because their stance on Brexit, going back to that. Labour's stance on Brexit is also leave, but I think we need to look at them and go, well, at the end of the outcome, they are possibly giving the option. Like what we want to do, we are saying to stop Brexit. That's our mandate if we were to get a majority. But the mandate, if not, is a referendum to give that choice. So we're still being diplomatic and we want the people's opinion, but we need to make sure we're doing the best for the country, and I think those two coalitions are the best options for us, to be honest.
If I've got this right, the constituency you stood in previously has seen the Lib Dems withdraw their candidate after agreeing a pro-EU electoral pact with Clwyd and the Greens, the Unite to Remain electoral pact, which it covers 60 constituencies and 11 in Wales. Were you looking to stand there?
Yes. It was, the option was given to us. We were kept in the loop during the negotiations. The negotiations happened far away, and we were given a phone call from our Welsh leader and our party president. You know, there is a lot of, not anger, but hurt about the Remain alliance, simply because we are aligning ourselves with a nationalist party that's one goal is to have an independent Wales. I was looking to represent Arfon, but no, we were stood down for the cause of Brexit, and Clwyd South, you know, without a candidate, that was a Remain candidate standing, you know, I felt it was my duty as a Welshman and a European to come and stand here. You know, I think everyone would love to stand where they want to stand, but I think under the circumstances of Brexit and how it'll not affect just us, but it'll affect our children and our children's children in terms of Europe, I think it's a sacrifice worth making, and just swallowing our pride and going, no, we will help Plaid Cymru, or the Greens down south, to win as many seats as we can.
The second part of the question on that was, and you've touched on it there, referring to you know, telephone calls from quite far away.
Yeah.
Are such backroom deals democratic?
I think they weren't so much backroom deals. I think because of confidentiality, I don't think they wanted everyone and to affect the public and outcry, because there's been a lot of anger from Plaid Cymru's side as well, because they're going, oh, we don't want to stand down for those Liberals. I think the way to look at it is that we are trying to benefit the country in the best possible way. It's democratic that we're still giving people the choice. I would prefer proportional representation. That would give everyone's vote a meaning. I think the reason why a lot of people don't vote is because they feel, oh, well, I mean, Arfon, I'm going to vote Conservative, it doesn't mean anything. So some people don't vote. Or, you know, I think a lot of people at the moment, how I've spoken to, a lot of Liberals at home, don't know who they want to vote for, because they would have voted Liberal, but now they're swaying between Plaid Cymru or Labour. So I think the Remain has begotten a bit worrying in some parts. And I think the backroom deals, you know, it's more just to benefit people. And I think, yeah, we're still giving that choice, but if we could get proportional representation, that'd be fantastic.
In terms of the pact, there's no pact in Wrexham. Doesn't that signal to people looking in that the three parties feel they don't really have a chance here, so there's no interest in doing a deal?
Well, no, it wasn't more. We did speak about it, and Wrexham and Clwyd. I think every constituency in Wales was brought up in a negotiation at some point. But what it was looking at the stats from 2017 and a bit before, and seeing how many Remain votes we had, and then deciding, was it worth standing down? You know, here we want to take as many votes as we can from Remain voters and try to win. You know, I know it's a big mountain, but, you know, we could always, you know, I think what people struggle with is that just because you can't do something doesn't mean you shouldn't try. And I think that as a society we struggle with. I think it doesn't matter if I need 20,000 votes to beat Labour in Clwyd South, I'm still willing to try, and I think that's the point. And I think that's why Plaid Cymru and us are still standing in Clwyd and Wrexham. Not because we don't think we can win, but because I think it's still worth trying to get as many votes as we can to support that vote, because at the end of the day, whoever comes into government, we can then go, right, this is how many votes that we got, and this is how many people want to remain in Europe merging everyone, regardless of which party colour you're wearing, at the end we can go, right, no, this many people wanted to remain. Because Labour is touching a very Leave party, and Corbyn hasn't come out and said, oh, we will stop Brexit, we're going to renegotiate, which will waste more money, and then take it back to the people, potentially, if he's telling the truth.
It's a scenario for Clwyd South that could happen. We could be down the road in the University at the Count. It could be early hours of Friday the 13th, and a Leave-related winner is returned by a very, very narrow margin, a margin that votes for you would have swayed to a Remain ending up candidate. Do you think a deal should have been done? And will we be asking you if you had any regrets?
I think the only scenario that I was ever thinking about was, and it's the comment that I keep getting on Facebook, is why are you standing to take away Labour's votes? But we're not just taking away Labour votes. That's working off the misconception that we're just going to take Labour. We're going to take Conservative. I think because it is such a high mountain, going to my previous answer, it is such a high mountain, unless there's a massive, massive windfall into our pot, it will look like it's going to be a Leave candidate, whether it be Conservative or Labour. And, I think worst case is Labour. I'd still prefer me. But, I don't think I'd regret anything. I don't think I'd regret standing at all, because, we've given people the option to vote for us, and we want people to vote for us, to be able to show people at the end of the day, this is the amount of people that want to remain in Europe.
How did you vote in the referendum?
Oh, I voted Remain.
Was that Remain, or Remain with changes to the EU?
It was a Remain. I think I was told a fact the other day that the EU provide a small fund for every state, part of the EU, that everyone's allowed to chip into, which teaches people about the EU. And the UK is the only country that hasn't actually gone into that pot. So, pardon me, there was a fact that we are the least educated in terms of Europe, about Europe, as of 2016. And I felt that I had researched enough to go, no, Europe is good. I've travelled across Europe with my partner, and we loved it. And I think losing that and losing just that community, it was a Conservative Prime Minister who said, I hope one day that the British people will think of themselves as European, not people of the British Empire. And, that was a very great leader that said that, Winston Churchill. And, I think he would be shocked now to see the situation that we're in now, where we want to move away from Europe and, not be part of something bigger. And it is a shame, and I wish that it had gone the other way. And I don't think we'd be in this situation. There'd still be the Brexiteers. We're never going to get rid of either side. This conversation is going to go on for decades, because there's such strong feelings either side. It's never going to go away. But I just wish that Brexiteers could see the damage that it's doing. But there's always an excuse of why it's doing that damage. Oh, because Brexit hasn't been done. And it's a shame to show that, they won't listen to the specialist, special businessmen that have said, oh no, I've chose Germany to have my factory instead of the UK. And I don't understand myself how people can see that how it's not damaging the country. But yes, I was a massive Remainer.
Wales voted to leave, specifically Clwyd South voted to leave. And the first page of your manifesto, huge letters, refers to your policy, and that policy would revoke Article 50. That doesn't even give a second referendum, and it bluntly rips up the 2016 referendum result. Surely that's not democratic.
Well, what that is, it's our manifesto to show that if we were to get a majority in Parliament, that would be a sign from the British people that they did not want Brexit. So that would be our mandate. If we didn't get a majority, we would still push for the referendum. I think the amount of people that have, obviously they've aged, that 16-year-olds that weren't given a vote have now aged enough and have been listening to Brexit for so long and have clocked on and gone, oh no, we need to stay in Europe and this is for us, not for the older generation that might still remember what it was like before the European Union. And I think that's what the difference is now, is that we still want to give people that chance. Don't get me wrong. It is just simply the wording of our mandate that if we were to get a majority, we still want that referendum and we want to give people that option. We're not wanting to take away anything. We just want the people's voice to still be heard. But, and I've been told not to say it, but people were lied to. And that's what I disagree with. That there was so much misinformation on the bus from the Brexit Party and Nigel Farage, and I think the blame lies with him and Boris, and those are the two people that strung everyone along and built up such hate. I'm not saying that everyone that voted Leave is wrong. I'm saying they were wrong to vote that way. They were simply misinformed, and they came to a conclusion that may not be in line with their actual feelings. They were just given so much fluffed up information. I think that's what's caused it. So we don't want to take away from people. We still want to give that choice,
Have you got anything to add for potential voters watching this?
The only thing I could add is that I hope that everyone will research what the EU do for us, especially for Clwyd South. I've been trying to spread things on Facebook to show how much money the EU provides us, how much support. They're supporting our 5G development across Wrexham. They are helping our farmers, and I want them to, if you know farmers, I want you to go out and speak to them and ask them honestly, what effect will Brexit have on your industry? We see a lot of, I love my meat, I'm not the slimmest of people, so you can imagine I like meat. So I love my local butchers. But across Gwynedd, where I am, and I know across the country, a lot of small butchers are just going out of business because they're not getting that supply, and that demand is, yes, I pay a little bit more for my lamb, but it's a fantastic lamb. And I'd rather get a lamb from my local butchers than from New Zealand. And I think that's the only way that Brexit's going to go, is that we're going to end up having so much imports, especially from America, which are going to have catastrophic effects on our health at NHS, and the farming community is just going to keep dissolving. And like I said earlier, farmers are on such a knife edge. I just want people to research Brexit properly and try to filter through the fake news and the fake information and get down to what Europe provides us. If that means going to a French website and then going, translate, I would encourage people to do so, definitely.
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. It's lovely being here.